Welcome, everybody, to finally another episode of Spartacus. My name is Matthew. Joining me
That is
tonight.
not the name of this.
It is called Jupiter's
That is
CROCK.
not the name of this.
It's been so fucking long, I forgot. Jupiter's CROCK. Welcome to Jupiter's CROCK, everyone. Jesus. We always refer to it as Spartacus in the Discord. That's why, it's been so long, because some asshole just keeps putting off watching the episodes and doing things in his life like working, and that's Ronan.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah, eat my asshole.
Fucking God. Fine. I mean, how long has it been? We took a 1 month break on May 1st from Outpost Unknown. It's stretched into 3.5. But we are back now. And also, of course, the one, the only Spartacus, Steve.
Yep, I'm here. I've watched this episode like 3 times now.
Yeah. And it's all Ronan's fault. It's all Ronan's fault. I just
100%
want to put
Ronan's
that out
fault.
All right, so we are back. We finished up Blood and Sand, Season 1. Now, what would you guys call this? Would you guys call this Season 2 if you were going to describe this to somebody? Or would you say it's technically like Season 3 or Season 2.5? Like, how would you describe Vengeance?
I refer to it as Season 2.
Okay.
I get episode airing wise, it's actually Season 3, but I feel like Gods of the Arena was like a prequel series. That'd be like Season 0.
Okay. A prequel series, Steve, that you would agree is great.
It is. It's fantastic. It's one of the
and you hate prequels, I'm just saying.
It isn't a complete piece of shit.
Yeah, Gods of the Arena, Andor, it's all great prequel stuff out there for people.
No.
There is the prequel and good and Star Wars. Unless it's in a negative connotation, that sentence does not work. Grammatically speaking, it just can't be formed.
So, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Once a week, pending Ronan's busy schedule, we'll put out a new episode.
This is once a week.
As we get through a 10-episode Season 2, and I do have some notes. I watched the audio commentary track of Episode 1, Fugitivus, and I mean, we'd be remiss. We would be remiss if we didn't mention up front the great Andy Whitfield. Yeah, the great Andy Whitfield, who was... He's our Spartacus. I mean, he's just our Spartacus. He passed away from cancer before the making of Season 2, and they replaced him with Liam McIntyre. Now, I remember when this first happened, I was very, I just did not like this guy. It's like... I'd imagine it if, you have a mother and she then gets a new boyfriend and you're, 12 or 13 and you just hate this guy. He could be a great guy.
You're my dad!
He could be a great guy, right? But you're just like, fuck you, I want nothing to do with you. That's kind of how I felt when I initially watched this season, the first episode of it way back in the day. And so I was actually curious as to what my reaction would be now. But I'll throw it around the room here. I'll start with you first, Ronan. Your sort of initial thoughts on Andy Whitfield's passing, how you feel about it, and what, take yourself back if you can. Did you feel weird and awkward when you saw this guy as Spartacus, and what were your initial feelings towards him?
I can't really recall my 100% feelings for it, but what I can say is that I do not remember feeling abject rage. I don't remember feeling any of that. I think my thoughts on him are the same that they are today. He's fine, he's good. I mean, the problem is they found the perfect guy, and then circumstances beyond anybody's control eliminated him from the planet, and now you have to find somebody else to do it. Had he been cast originally, it's that question that you can never answer. It's like if he had been Spartacus from Season 1, would we even be questioning? It's like, would there ever be any doubts? It's like, if he's good or not. You could never answer that question. So, but okay. No, he's fine. Although asshole that I am, I did start trying to think of mean names for him that we could call him during the show instead of calling him Spartacus. Maybe instead of Spartacus we call him Nauticus. Because he's not Spartacus. I don't know. I'm still workshopping it. Maybe we'll workshop it to the next 3 episodes.
Okay. Steve, your thoughts. Andy Whitfield and how you felt when you saw this guy initially replacing him.
Andy Whitfield was great. Like, he was perfect in this role. I have no problems with Liam McIntyre. I think recasting should happen more often. I like, even like with Star Wars, I thought they should have like recast Leia rather than the CGI black magic they pulled to try to fit her into to Episode 9. The recasting bothers me not any whatsoever. I'm fine with it. I obviously I wish it was still Andy Whitfield, but I think Liam McIntyre does a good job. Weather Wizard, his best role.
Yeah, I think he does a good job, but I'm thinking about that sort of initial thought. I'm just like, I just feel like he was too GQ. He looked a little too nice for me at the time, but as we sort of dive into this, you get used to him, and he is a good Spartacus, so he does a good job. Before we dive into you giving us the plot of this, I will point out I did listen to the audio commentary track of this, and it was Stephen DeKnight, Lucy Lawless, Liam McIntyre, and Andy Whitfield did give them his blessing before he passed away, and he did tell Liam McIntyre he believed in him for the role and to run with it. So that makes us feel pretty good.
That? Like, how do you think that went down? Did the producers of the show go to Andy Whitfield and be like, hey, hypothetically, if you weren't here next year, would you be okay with us making it? Do you think Andy Whitfield broached it? It's just like, this has to be like one of the most awkward fucking conversations you could ever have with someone.
I think what I had heard from how this happened was because the cancer it come out of remission, and it was kind of known early on. It wasn't known that it was going to kill him, but it was known early on as, okay, he's not going to be able to continue if the show health-wise is just not going to work. So what I had heard was that he also helped to pick his replacement.
Yeah, I had heard that too.
I don't know how true that is, but I've heard that for years now. So I can't confirm it 100%. So, but I believe it was just it was kind of a unanimous decision. Like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do this. Like, I'd have to take time off, and because originally that's why they did the prequel series was, okay, we're going to shoot this show in the hopes that he's able to recover and come back, and it didn't work out. And then I think he died while they were filming season 2, I believe.
Have either of you seen that documentary that he did of his cancer battle? I can't remember what it's called.
I didn't know that was a thing, but I feel like it would make me incredibly sad.
Definitely sad. It's basically he filmed himself, and I think he had sometimes there was a camera crew along with him that filmed his entire journey of the cancer, and it ends with him dying. It's a very sad.
No!
It's a very sad, depressing documentary. But I mean, it's like, him in his last days dying. It's not like, hey, I'm Andy Whitfield, this is what I did with my life. It's following his entire sort of, fuck cancer, by the way. Fuck cancer. It's awful and terrible, and hopefully there'll be a cure someday. But I can't remember what it's called. I think it's I don't know if it's I Am Andy or something like that. I'll have to look it up while Ploticus starts the plot of Episode 1, Fugitivus.
So it starts with just text, kind of setting the stage for the season. It's now been a few weeks. I don't know how many weeks exactly, but it's been a few weeks since Batiatus was killed and the house of Batiatus fell, and the gladiators, Spartacus, they're just kind of randomly attacking Roman soldiers they come across. We see Spartacus being chased by Romans, and it turns out Spartacus has led the Romans into a trap because all of the gladiators that don't answer to Crixus are sitting here launching this attack on the Romans. The good guys win, and Spartacus decides to carve Glaber. We don't see the carving, but you find out later that Spartacus carved Glaber's name into one of the soldiers' bodies to try to lure Glaber back. All the good guy gladiators head home, and they're like, 8 more Romans sent to the afterlife, and everybody cheers. But then Mira's like, hey, that's neat that you killed a bunch of Romans, but
Where's
people
the
would really
food?
like something to eat.
Yeah. They bring swords.
Yes. At which point, not Crixus himself, but Crixus's crew, led by Rascos, comes in, and they've got food. And Spartacus says, great, good job. Make sure everybody gets food. And Rascos, he fucking hates socialism, so he throws his chunk of chicken right into the fucking sewer water. Speaking of which, what is this thing that the gladiators are hiding in?
It looks like the exact same set that when Badiatus was going after Good Salonius. Remember what that whole sort of
It was told
sewer set?
No,
Yeah, it looks like they're in the sewers. I don't know exactly. Regardless, they don't stay there long. Brascos is angry, but ultimately Spartacus pulls rank and says, hey, make sure everybody gets food. And then we do. Everybody gets a little bit of food.
Do you think that Rascos didn't go after Spartacus there because he's actually scared of Spartacus, or do you think he didn't go after him because he's scared of what Crixus would do if he started fucking with all of them? Because there's a disrespect going on with Crixus's boys towards Spartacus throughout this first couple episodes.
I think there is respect there. I think it's just anger that they have different goals at the moment. I think Rascos respects Spartacus. He's just he feels like his crew is putting in all the work to keep people fed, therefore they should get more food.
Yeah, 100%. Rascos isn't stupid, or at least not that kind of stupid. He knows that if it were to come down to swords, Spartacus would probably butcher him and a good chunk of Crixus's men before one of them would eventually get lucky and get him and take him out. But it's just angry. It's angry alpha bro prick waving. It's he doesn't like the fact that this guy is telling him what to do. But obviously he does it. Oh, son of a fuck.
Okay, that's fair.
Anyways, we see what Glaber's been up to, and Glaber is a praetor now, or
yes, praetor.
Whatever, praetor. I just busted out of the game. I was like, do I pay attention to Spartacus or do I pay attention to poker? Anyways, Glaber is a praetor now, and he's talking about is it Pompey, the adolescent butcher or whatever his name is. We'll see Pompey many episodes from now, but Pompey is fighting Roman's enemies, and Glaber wants to go after them. He wants to go and either support Pompey or steal his glory, one or the other. Regardless, Glaber wants out there. But everybody's a little bit upset that Spartacus is laying waste to Romans out in the wilderness, and so Alythia's dad shows up with some douchebag named Verinius, and it's very clear that Verinius wants to steal Alythia away. And it's very
does
clear
everybody?
That,
yes. Come on now.
It's also very clear that Alythia's dad is on board with this. Alythia's dad does not like Glaber at all, which, to be fair, he is Glaber. He has
Nobody
an effect
likes
on
Glaber.
people. But ultimately, Glaber's like, yeah, Spartacus isn't my problem anymore. I don't care. He's just a slave. I don't give a shit. But because it's known now that Spartacus essentially called out Glaber by carving his name in the dude's body, and so Alythia's dad tells him that this is your mess. Everyone knows that you brought Spartacus to Rome. If someone else kills Spartacus, you will never live this down. Your career will essentially be over. You will rise no further in the Senate, is I think what Alythia's dad says.
I like that
so
Glaber doesn't even care. He's like, the slaves are beneath me.
Yeah,
it's they're literally fucking everybody up over there in Capua.
Yeah, Spartacus kneeled to him. Glaber won in Glaber's mind. He does not care about Spartacus anymore. But he doesn't have a choice. If he wants to continue his military career, he has to go and suck it up and deal with it. And he's going to take Alythia with him, and Alythia is not happy. Crixus eventually comes back.
Yeah.
And because Crixus went on a mission. Crixus went on a mission to find information about Navia. Navia is missing. At the end of season 1, she was like carted off to who knows where, and Crixus is on the hunt, and Crixus went and found a guy that said, yeah, last time I saw Navia, like this guy that runs a brothel like dealt with her, and so Spartacus and Crixus is like, he's going to go and do this. He is going to go and attack this brothel to get information on Navia, and Spartacus says, hey man, I promised you I was going to go, so I'm going to go.
A lot of infighting here because Spartacus's people are like, this is wasted time. Like, don't do it.
Yeah. There's a lot of divergent agendas in the early season 2 of Spartacus. Like, eventually everyone gets on the same page, but Spartacus is laser focused on Glaber. Mira and the slaves that can't really fight, they're like, hey, how about we flee south to where there's food and no Romans? Crixus wants to take his men and go after Navia, and Agron, he doesn't really care what direction they go as long as that direction leads to more soldiers for the Spartacus army. But when Crixus comes back, he goes to Spartacus, and they have a little bit of a standoff. He tells Spartacus, like, I hear you want to command my men. And Spartacus is like, I know you'd have shared your food if you were here. It's not a big deal. And Crixus kind of is just like, you know, fuck it, whatever. I don't want this fight right now. Crixus just kind of gives in, and I don't know if it's because he knows that Spartacus is right, or he just doesn't really want to deal with it, but he says, I'll deal with my men. And so Spartacus and Crixus plan to go and to the brothel to get information on Navia. Prior to this, Spartacus has been stealing money from all of the soldiers that he's killed, and he gives it all to Aurelia, Vero's widow.
I'm sorry, I have one thing, because I'm kind of following along with my notes here as you're going through the script. That sequence that you're talking about where Crixus and Spartacus are kind of talking, and Crixus kind of... I like to believe that Crixus is like, he's been established as a good dude now, and so he's just like, yeah, of course I would have shared the food. I wouldn't be an asshole about that. But he mentions that he killed Marcellus. Marcellus is the guy that Asher set up to kill Barca. In Blood and Sand, and according to Stephen DeKnight, they actually shot that. They were going to have a whole sequence where they showed Crixus actually kill him, but apparently they fucked up the filming of it, and it looked terrible, which is why he only says, I killed Marcellus. So it's kind of like an offhanded thing, but Crixus did go kill the guy.
I assumed that was a random name. I'll look up the Marcellus character on their wiki to remind myself. But that's
if I saw his face, if I saw his face, I'd remember it. But otherwise, I just thought it was an offhand sort of remark. Oh I found the guy, and he won't ever speak of like the fact that
he could have just said, I killed Bob. Bob told me where Navia was, and I'd be like, yeah, okay, cool.
Hey man, I'm just bringing the facts, the context.
Anyways, Spartacus has been stealing money from the Roman corpses that he's been leaving behind, and he gives it all to Aurelia and says, go, I'm sending some men in this direction to hunt for food. They will take you with them. That's in the direction of where your son is now living. Take this money, get your son, and just get the fuck out of Rome. And Aurelia thanks Spartacus. They have like a little tender moment where Aurelia recognizes how much Spartacus loved Vero, and then Aurelia goes off. I'm sure she's gonna be just
live
fine
happily
from
ever
this
after.
point
Nothing bad is gonna have. It's gonna be great.
Exactly. Yeah, she's gonna be fine. But Spartacus and Crixus, they're about to go launch their attack on this brothel, and this brothel scene.
Great. We had there's a great line that comes before it where some of Spartacus's men are wanting to come along, and there's some new guy with an axe who did not exist in season 1, but it's like, oh fuck, we need more characters. I forget this guy's name, but Spartacus is like, oh no, I promised Crixus I would go along, and Agron's like, I'm not going to leave you alone with the fucking Gauls, and this other guy's like, you had me at whores.
He's great, yeah. I don't remember if this guy does anything of note throughout the series, but he's great in this scene.
Yeah, that one scene, that one line, you had me at whores. It's like, yes.
But anyways, they're going to the brothel, and this brothel scene is something that always stood out to me because the brothel scene. They're going to find a guy. I don't remember his name, but the brothel scene follows this one dude, and you think that this is like. Did you guys assume that this big guy that this scene is following along was the guy they were after?
Yeah. That was my thought when I was watching. I was like,
so there's a guy that the scene they follow this guy through multiple orgies that are happening in this brothel, and he's contributing to some of the orgies. He's dumping wine on people. He finds a quiet
He's
spot.
jacking off in a corner, more or less.
I mean, we were going to get there eventually, regardless.
More or less.
This is
what is the less? That's exactly
it
what
was
he's doing.
more. There was more of that than any of us wanted. Regardless, this guy we follow this guy all around the brothel. We think he's the guy that Spartacus and Crixus are looking for, and then he just gets fucking stabbed through the neck. He was this complete rando that has no bearing whatsoever on the plot. I don't even know if this guy has a line. I don't know if he even has a name, but he dies. And then Spartacus and Crixus and Agron and the gladiators, they go to work killing all the Romans. And they're looking for the main dude, the owner of the brothel, and Crixus finds him as he is assaulting a woman, and
he's peeing on her.
What's that?
He's peeing on her.
He was pissing on her. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
You didn't catch that?
How do you miss that?
I've watched this episode 3 times, and I never, even like back in the day, like it never dawned on me that he was pissing on her. So I guess you guys know more about that than I do.
Well, I will say that Stephen DeKnight said that when he saw that was not in the script, and neither was the right before Spartacus finds that guy and Crixus. There's a dude that's got cum all over his mouth. That wasn't in the script either. And so Stephen DeKnight saw it, and he was like, "This is terrible." He's like, "Yeah, I don't think we should be pissing on women." That's kind of not what I want to go for here. So they cut it out.
There's a lot of things in this show that shouldn't be happening to women, and they have no problem keeping in the show.
But pissing on a woman, that's the line apparently. So they actually cut it all out for broadcast. So none of that stuff apparently was in the broadcast. But then he's like, but then it ended up in the DVD release. So
really,
somebody put it back in.
I've had these DVDs for a decade, and I've watched this multiple times. It never looked to me like he was pissing on her.
What do you think he's doing to her? What is splashing all over her face?
I didn't see anything splashing. I assumed he was assaulting her.
You don't think an uncooperative golden shower is an assault?
Problematic.
Where is
Problematic.
Why are we dwelling on this? Bad things are happening to a woman because of him. Crixus walks in, and that causes a distraction. And Golden Shower Girl stabs him, and Crixus yells. Crixus is like, "Fuck, no, I need this guy alive." And then Agron comes in, and Agron also tries to kill him because Agron reveals that this is the guy that sold himself and his brother Duro.
Yeah. That's literally the guy. That's literally that guy from Blood and Sand that was there for like 30 seconds when Batiatus bought him. Same actor and everything.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah,
it's neat. Hey, see, canon is important. It's great.
Matt.
No, it's not, because you don't even fucking remember these people. It's not important.
Canon's
no, it's Bob.
Great.
It's Bob.
But Bob was in Blood and Sand.
Bob canonically sold them, Matt.
You didn't even know. You had no
long
idea.
live canon. Long live canon. Anyways, Agron wants to kill the guy. Spartacus is like, no. Crixus needs him alive. He's going to die. Let's just leave Crixus to do what he wants. And so Crixus goes to the guy. Is like he starts describing Navia, and he says, "I hear that you shipped her off somewhere. I need to know where you sent her." And he says, "Fuck yourself. I'm already dead. I'm not going to help you out. You're a stupid slave." And Crixus is like, "Well, you're not dead yet.
There's still life in you."
Yeah, a lot can happen in your time. And so Crixus takes 2 fingers and sticks it into his guts where he was stabbed.
It's brutal.
And starts pulling out
some of him
and
out.
twisting these mashed hot dogs that were inside this guy, and we don't
That was
see
very
any more
clearly
than that.
concussion, Steve.
Yeah,
We don't see any more than that, but it was a brutal scene, and apparently he told Crixus what Crixus needed to know, because the next or later that night, I guess, Crixus tells Spartacus that Batiatus basically arranged for Naevia to just be sent south towards a bunch of villas that
Where the
Batiatus
food
was looking to garner support with. Yep. We're going to have some converging agendas now. But Crixus has just like the faintest hint of the direction Naevia is heading, and so he wants to go that way. But he also tells Spartacus that like whatever we do, we can't stay here because Rome is actually sending soldiers now. And so Spartacus has a choice to make. Like, what do we do? Spartacus wants to fight. Crixus wants to fight too, but he wants to save Naevia more. So Crixus wants to go south to track Naevia. Spartacus wants to get some revenge, and we're gonna see what happens with this connect later, because Glaber has arrived. Glaber is back in Capua. He's actually staying at the house of Batiatus, the Ludus.
They're sure reusing a lot of sets.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of mileage out of this. We can't say shit. Doing that kind of thing was our bread and butter for a long time. But he's back. Alithia is there. Alithia is not pleased. And
But
then
still hot.
Alithia is still super hot. Then Alithia runs into a ghost. Except it's not a ghost. Somehow, some way, we'll find out in a few episodes, Xena has survived. She has survived, and she is
crazy hair to go in, man.
batshit crazy. She is dirty. She's got like a fucking rat's nest in her head. She is looking rough, and Alithia is like, fucking kill her. Kill her now, fucking kill her. She needs to die. But then Glaber's friend, I don't even know what this guy's name is, but his friend is like, well, no, she survived. She could be a symbol to the people. And so Glaber is convinced, so they're going to clean up Xena and kind of like parade her around so that people will have hope. Like Spartacus and his men like couldn't even kill Xena, essentially a housewife. You all have nothing to fear. You're gonna be just fine. Spartacus is just a slave. We're gonna
the
knock
other
this shit out, like,
800
over the
people he
weekend.
butchered.
Yeah, they don't matter. Xena survived. We're gonna knock this out like over the weekend. By Monday, Spartacus is gonna be dead. No worries whatsoever. Spartacus also knows now that Glaber is back in town, and so Spartacus and Mira have this moment where Mira basically pulls the. So what are we exactly? She hits him with that question. His free trial is ended, and Spartacus gives her the answer that she wants to hear. Essentially, like, hey, life has sucked recently. The only time I feel any joy is when I'm with you. And so Mira's like, yeah, hey, how about we leave then? How about we go to where the food is and leave Rome behind? And Spartacus is like, you know what? That's a good idea. And then they wake up the next morning and Spartacus is gone.
I'm in.
He's like, by the way, I
gone.
love you, Mira. However, I still love my wife more, and my vengeance for her matters more to me than going south with you for food.
Spartacus is kind of an asshat in this episode. Spartacus tells Mira, it's a good idea for us to flee Rome and go to where the food is and follow Crixus south out of here. We'll rescue Naevia on the way. Yeah, that's a good idea for you. Because Spartacus goes to town the next day. And he's hiding himself. He's wrapped up in robes. He's disguised. Glaber starts running through town with Xena, like, oh, look, Xena is here. She survived. Spartacus is so inept, he couldn't kill the warrior princess. Blessed by the gods. And oh, by the way, the other day we happened to catch some of Spartacus's men that were out in the direction of where the food is, weirdly enough. And we killed all of them except this woman who looks suspiciously like Aurelia. Aurelia has been just beat to shit, She's like letters, I think FVG.
Fugitivus. They brand her
letters.
fugitive.
The letters indicating that she is a fugitivus or fugitive or whatever have been carved into her head. They are basically going to kill her for sport. And then Spartacus attacks. Spartacus is like, I'm just going to fucking kill Glaber. I'm here. But yeah, Spartacus didn't think this through. There's a bunch of fucking soldiers in this town now, and so Spartacus has no chance of surviving this, and frankly he doesn't care. He's willing to die as long as he takes Glaber with him. But Crixus shows up and rescues Spartacus, saves the day. They rescue Aurelia.
Crixus is a bro, man.
Yeah, Crixus is great in this episode.
Although he does say,
homie.
I didn't come to save you. He's made sure, like, hey man, I didn't come to save you. I came to stop you.
Yeah. You basically, Spartacus dying would negatively affect Crixus's quest for Navia. Because when they get back to the fucking sewers that they're living in, Spartacus is like, oh yeah, thank you so much for coming, I was wrong. And Crixus just punches him in the fucking face. Punches him in the face, and they hash it out. And Crixus is like, what the fuck do you think would have happened if you were successful? They wouldn't have sent a small detachment of soldiers. They wouldn't have sent the tiny little group that Glaber has. They would have sent a fucking army after us if you had killed a fucking traitor in the middle of a fucking Roman city.
Yeah, and it should be pointed out that during this, when Spartacus is really gung-ho on, no, we gotta fight, Crixus is the one that's like, these guys, they're just house slaves. They barely know how to hold a sword, and you expect that they're gonna take down the Roman army. He's like, you're nuts. Crixus is actually the one that's thinking clearly in this episode.
He is the voice of reason, which something that he definitely was fucking not throughout the most of season one. This is a great Crixus episode. But they hash it out. Then someone says, hey, Spartacus, Aurelia wants to talk to you. And he goes to Aurelia, and Aurelia is like, Spartacus promised me this one thing. And he's like, anything, Aurelia, anything you want. And she's like, stay the fuck away from my kid. You fucking killed Barrow, you fucking killed me. How about you just stay away from my baby boy? And this brings, and then she dies, and this brings Spartacus to tears. And Spartacus is like, you know what? You guys are right. We need to head south. We need to get out of here. We're gonna follow the path that Crixus wants us to do. We're gonna go south. We're gonna find Navia. We're going to rescue slaves along the way. We will build an army, and then we're gonna come back. But we're not ready now, so we need to go. The end.
I want to bring in some.
You missed a huge part, a very big part.
Remind me, because
what's going on with Onomaus?
Oh, I watched this and episode 2 back to back, and I have I think all of my Onomaus thoughts have transferred to episode 2 because that episode is so focused on him. Okay, because
in this first one, he's they don't know what happened to him. They don't know what happened to Doctore. They talk for well, what happened to? Has anybody seen him? And Crixus is basically like, look, man. We destroyed his entire purpose in life. He ain't coming back. He ain't gonna hang out with us. He's dead to us. Onomaus has been sort of wandering the streets. He's in the arena. He's watching the gladiators fight and stuff like that. There's a whole sequence in here where somebody, a bunch of people in the arena recognize him, and they try to jump him. We get this awesome scene where he fucks all these dudes up. But he actually shows up in the sewers just randomly to be like, oh, by the way, you guys can't win. Get the fuck out of here.
He knew they were there the entire time. Somehow.
Yes, he's just trying to stay away from them, which will lead into what happens in episode 2, where we see more of what's actually going on with Onomaus. But I just wanted to mention it is important that he does pop up here in this episode.
I think I just rolled all of the Onomaus scenes into episode 2 because I watched these back to back.
That's fine. I do want to mention just a couple facts. Sepius, who's kind of like this Weasley asshole, who's I guess he's best friends with a Roman senator. He was actually
he's working with Verinius.
Right.
We don't see them interact in this episode, but he's working with Vernius, the guy that wants to bang Alithia.
Right. He was originally supposed to be at the end of Blood and Sand. They were going to actually show him there. He was going to be the cousin of Sextus, but budget cuts they didn't have the money to hire another actor for that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. He was originally supposed to be in there. This season takes place 4 to 8 weeks from the end of Blood and Sand. So it just says weeks, and they actually ask on the audio commentary, well, how long is it? And Stephen DeKnight's like, we're always intentionally vague with how long things have been, because we didn't even mention Alithia is pregnant, and that's a whole other aspect of it. Like, when we see Alithia for the first time in this episode, she's butt-ass naked holding her stomach. She's all happy that she's pregnant. The question is that Spartacus's kid? Or is that Glaber's kid? Because she has these flashbacks. She's like reliving the bang when she was banging Spartacus.
She is very turned on because when she gets to the Ludus, she sees the mask that either she or Spartacus has to wear. And there's another scene, like I don't remember if it happens in this episode or the next episode, where she's in a bathtub full of like gold rose petals, and she's having herself a time.
Yeah. So I guess that is a question. Do you guys think it's Spartacus's kid, or do you think it's like Glaber's kid?
I'm trying to think back. Like, did we ever see her have sex with Glaber like near the same time or around that same time period?
No, because he doesn't show up. He doesn't show up because he's in the early episodes of Blood and Sand, but he doesn't really show up again until. Does he show up at the end? I think
it's got to be Spartacus. I'm assuming
he does show up at the end.
I mean, spoilers. Like several episodes from now, she does blurt out, "The child is yours" to Spartacus.
Well, thank you for spoiling. I was trying to not set that up for everybody right away, Ronan, and I'm too lazy to go and edit that out. So there you go, everyone. I was trying to tee something up to keep you interested for the next few episodes. But no.
No one cares.
They care about the canon running. So about Sepia and what's her fucking name and his name?
Sepius and God, what's the girl's name?
Sepia. Like they have very similar names,
Sepius and
right?
Sepia.
I think that's it. Like they're ostensibly they're important people, but do they really do anything in this episode?
They're like brother and sister, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, did we mention the weird
creepy
incestuous brother and
I
sister?
didn't mention them because they're like barely important in this episode, even though everyone else treats them as important. Like at the beginning, the men that Spartacus kills belong to Sepius.
Yeah, the brother has been building up local militias to try and kill the slave revolt.
Yeah, and then we see Sepia talking shit at games. There's a gladiator fight that we see that everybody's just not thrilled with, and Sepia's there kind of rubbing it in that Spartacus has managed to kill more Romans. They don't really, like, they're gonna be important, but they don't feel very important yet.
Yeah. A few other facts. The producers actually had an argument about Oenomaus. Some producers of the show thought he should have been with the group from the very beginning, and the other producer, predominantly Stephen DeKnight, said no, he's got to be on his own away from everybody else.
Agree with Stephen DeKnight.
Yeah, so I just thought it was interesting that there was an argument back and forth here. Lucy Lawless said on the audio commentary she actually hates her performance. Because she feels she went too far onto the crazy side of things, and it's almost like a caricature of crazy, and she just didn't. I actually thought it was cool. I don't have a problem with her performance, but she herself didn't like it.
She doesn't. Well, let's see. So a question throughout this season is going to be: is she really crazy, or is she pulling some shit? Because you could go either way depending on which episode you watch.
We could tee that up for the rest of the season episodes here, unless Ronan wants to spoil that right now.
Let's do it. Let's spoil it out.
Because when Alithia first sees her, Xena is looking rough, and she's like, Navia, fetch, prepare a feast for the guests, and she's like clapping, and like, Navia's not coming, and she has no idea what's going on. Like, and Alithia kind of is like, "Hey, remember how we were friends? And remember how, I've got these other friends, like Roman woman name and Roman woman name too.
Licinius?
And Licinia." And Xena's like, oh yeah, can you introduce me to her? And Alithia's kind of like, oh thank God.
Her performance is so good though, because when you do that thing, she gives that little look where you're like, oh, she knows, like she knows this.
Yeah.
But then she completely turns it, and I was like, man, Lucy Lawless is a fucking great actress. She's so good. So yeah, that's going on. One funny thing I was telling Steve about before Ronan jumped on is Aurelia's death. Interesting thing. So on the audio commentary, Lucy Lawless, when Aurelia is pulled in, Lucy Lawless makes the comment, "This is what happens when you won't get naked on our show." so I thought that was pretty funny.
That was a joke.
Yeah,
Please tell me, Lucy Lawless. Lucy, I know you're listening. Tell me that was a joke.
It's got to be a joke. Got to be a joke. But it was funny how she said it. And the other interesting last fact I have about this episode from the audio commentary is Aurelia was actually not supposed to die this way or this early in the show. They had a number of different ways that they were going to kill her. The main one that they were going to do was she was actually going to get back to her and Vero's kid, and then they were all going to be brutal. Like she was going to find that they were all brutally massacred. So they were actually going to show her get to Vero's kid, and that the kid was brutally murdered, and then she was going to kill herself on screen because of that. However, they couldn't, because if you go back and watch Blood and Sand, it was 13 episodes long. The rest of the seasons are only 10, and Starz cut their budget and slashed it all the way down, and so they had to basically take her out real early because they didn't have the space and the episodes to be able to pull that storyline out a little further. So that's why she dies this early. Those are my facts.
Aurelia.
I have some. I got some historical facts to bust out. So my source for this information is the Spartacus War by Barry Strauss. So I've listened to this audiobook a couple of times, been re-listening to it to freshen up for the show. So some history of what Crix is mentioned. What Crix is saying is like, you know what would have happened if you had killed a praetor in a Roman city? They'd just send a legion. Crixus is wrong. Spartacus kills about 6 fucking praetors before the Romans finally take him seriously and decide to send a legion. And he kills 2 fucking legions before Crassus gets involved, which is season 3. So Crixus is just kind of wrong there. Spartacus could kill a praetor, and the Romans just would not care.
To be fair, Ronan, at that point, he probably assumed that the Romans would care. I mean, really, they haven't done much. It's just like 4 weeks since they just killed Batiatus and stuff. He might have thought, if you kill a praetor, we're all fucked up, man.
Well, like I mentioned this just to kind of, because the show, after Spartacus, after season 2, we jumped to season 3, and by this point, Spartacus is already taken on like a 6 some odd Roman, but they mentioned like legions or something like that. But he hasn't faced the true Roman army. But this is season 3. History thought so very little of Glaber that he only exists in the record books as they sent a know-nothing praetor named Glaber to fight Spartacus. They fought on Vesuvius, and that's it. That's all that history has written down of Glaber. He came
Does
down
history
with a
say anything about Alithia? That's what I want to know.
Yum. Smoke show. She looks... Okay, Ronan, we were having this argument. I think she looks even hotter this season than she did last. Steve thinks she looks the same hotness. What say you?
But the same hotness, but it's like maximum hotness. Like, she was already at the top.
I think she's hotter. She just looks better.
No, I agree with Steve. It's like no. It's like on the bell curve. She was already on the top of the bell curve.
You guys
what are you talking
crazy.
about?
We're not
crazy.
saying she's not hot. We're saying that she was maximum hot and stayed that way.
No. She's exponentially increased.
No.
Yes.
You're just wrong. So historically speaking, Glaber, he didn't even come down. He only had maybe 100 proper Roman troops with him. He had to build up his militia on the way down to Capua. So basically, he had to just kind of recruit from town to town he was coming in, and eventually just kind of pull rank and pull people into the auxiliary. to face Spartacus. There were about Badiatus's Ludus had about 300+ gladiators in it, so it was much bigger than season 1 lets us think. 300+ gladiators were planning to break out. Only about 70 actually got out, and a couple of kitchen staff, some slaves came with them. By and large, though, for the original part of the rebellion, it was gladiators. They started freeing slaves on the way to Vesuvius and building up their numbers slowly but steadily. So when Glaber chases them up Vesuvius, this is history, not a spoiler. He outnumbers them a great deal at this point, but Spartacus beats him with clever tactics, and that continues to be his strategy as to how he beats the Romans. He just outthinks them because he's smarter than them, and they aren't taking him seriously. But he knows of it. Spartacus's goal historically was to get to the Alps and leave Rome. That was his goal the entire time. He never wanted to stick around. He knew eventually the Romans would send, the giant legion that they have stowed away. He knew eventually that would happen and that they would all be fucked. It was Crixus and the other people in his rebellion who wanted to stay there and got what the Japanese called victory disease. They kept winning, and so they figured they were never going to stop winning. So.
Are you blaming Crixus here? Is that what you're doing? That's what I hear. You're gonna start blaming Crixus.
Historically speaking, yeah, and I'll mention a couple of really big inaccuracies in season 3 when we get there.
Okay, I like this new Ronin bringing the historical facts to the Jupiter's Crock. I like it.
Most of season 2 is they're just kind of piecing it together for most of season 2 has very little it's kind of like season 1. There's not a whole lot of history they can really pull on for that particular part. Season 3 is where they really take a whole lot of liberties. There's a really big one that we'll get to in season 3.
We'll get to if people continue to be available to make the show.
Yeah.
This is content, Steve. It's like we're drawing out the content well. All right.
Oh, is that what we're doing?
What did you guys think of this sort of first episode of season 2? Thoughts?
It's not as bad as the first 3 episodes of season 1, but it's also not a solid banger like pretty much all of season 1 is. This is a fine opening episode.
We bring them all to you now.
Thoughts?
Steve?
I didn't know if Matt was going to talk. No, I agree with that. If we were back in season 1, they would have made this episode take 3 episodes. I'm glad they knocked it out in 1, because I think episode 2 kind of gets right into the action. I think this is not an amazing episode. It's a good episode. It's a good setup episode to just kind of reset things, let the audience know where everyone is at the start of the season, and things start getting extra good going forward.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to watch the next episode, A Place in This World, because just kind of a backstory of that was actually episode 3, and they completely cut episode 2 of what they originally had planned because they thought, probably because, when we watched the first out of 3 episodes of
going all in blind,
Blood and Sand, me as well. We thought those were the weakest, so maybe the 10 episode thing is going to be a positive. But yeah, I like this episode quite a bit. I like seeing all of our characters come back. It was nice. I'm glad that they brought Lucy Lawless back. We kind of needed that sort of, some of them old characters. But yeah, I like this one quite a bit. Makes me excited to watch the rest. And if you stick around till a month or so from now, you'll hear episode 2 of Jupiter's Crock of Vengeance. We'll talk about A Place in This World. With that, I guess we're going all in. Is that what we're doing here?
Yes. Yeah, we're doing it.
Okay,
we're doing it.
We're doing it, people. We're doing it. What does Ron put in here? 20,000.
I have lost so many chips because you guys make me constantly explain things, so I have not been paying attention. I've busted out twice.
Oh my God,
I am not going to win a whole lot if I win.
I actually was doing good. I had a good amount of chips, and now I'm going to lose them because this always fucks me.
Jesus.
Oh, give me 4s, give me 5s.
I got a low chance getting a third king though. That other guy's got a king on me.
You got a
Steve
5.
got a 5. Steve got a 5.
That's I need a 5. Give me another 5. Give me a 4.
Oh, fuck you, Steve!
Yeah. I think did I do good?
Yes!
Yeah!
That's very kind. I hate you.
I hate poker. I hate
Well, you know
poker,
what? If
and I hate the
Ronan
both
had
of you.
watched episode 2, we could run this back, but he fucking didn't. So now we gotta wait fucking 3 months to do another goddamn episode of this.
And cut.